I don't know if you saw the letter from the retired generals and admirals that has just been released. I'd like to read it to you. I think it's a little important. Our retired generals and admirals say this: our nation is in deep peril. We are in a fight for our survival as a constitutional republic like no other time since our founding in 1776. This conflict is between supporters of socialism and Marxism versus supporters of constitutional freedom and liberty. During the 2020 election, an open letter from senior military leaders was signed by 317 retired generals and admirals and said that the 2020 election could be the most important election since our country was founded. With the Democratic Party welcoming, quoting, socialist and Marxist, our historic way of life is at stake, end quote. Unfortunately, that statement's truth was quickly revealed, beginning with the election process itself. Without fair and honest elections that accurately reflect the will of the people, our constitutional republic is lost. Election integrity demands ensuring that there is one legal vote cast and counted per citizen. Legal votes are identified by state legislators' approved controls using government ITs, verified signatures, etc. Today, many are calling such common sense controls racist in an attempt to avoid having fair and honest elections. But aside from the election, the current administration has launched a full-blown assault on our constitutional rights in a dictatorial manner, bypassing the Congress with more than 50 executive orders quickly signed, many reversing the previous administration's effective policies and regulations. Moreover, population control actions such as excessive lockdowns, school and business closures, and most alarming, censorship of written and verbal expression are all direct assaults on our fundamental rights. We must support and hold accountable politicians who will act to counter socialism, Marxism, progressivism, and support our constitutional republic, and insist on fiscally responsible governing while focusing on all Americans, especially the middle class, but not special interest or extremist groups which are used to divide us into warring factions. Additional national security issues and actions follow. Open borders jeopardize national security by increasing human trafficking, drug cartels, terrorist entry, health, COVID-19 dangers, and humanitarian crisis. Illegals are flooding our country, bringing high economic costs, crime, lowering wages, and illegal voting in some states. Sovereign nations must have controlled borders. Next, China is the greatest external threat to America. Establishing cooperative relations with the Chinese Communist Party emboldens them to continue to progress towards world domination, military, economically, politically, and technologically. We must impose more sanctions and restrictions to impede their world domination goal and protect Americans' interests. The free flow of information is critical to security of our republic, as illustrated by the freedom of speech and press being in the First Amendment of our Constitution. Censoring speech and expression, distorting speech, spreading disinformation by government officials, private entities, and the media is a method to suppress the free flow of information. A tyrannical technique is used in closed societies. We must counter this on all fronts and begin with removing Section 230 for the protection of big tech. Re-engaging the flawed Iran nuclear deal would result in Iran acquiring nuclear weapons along with the means to deliver them, thereby upsetting Middle East peace initiatives and aiding a terrorist nation whose slogans and goals include death to America and death to Israel. We must resist the new China-Iran agreement and not support the Iran nuclear deal. In addition, continue with the Middle East peace initiatives, the Abraham Accords, and support for Israel. Next, Biden stopping the Keystone Pipeline eliminates our recently established energy independence and causes us to be energy dependent on nations that are not friendly to us while eliminating valuable U.S. jobs. We must open the Keystone Pipeline and regain our energy independence for national security and economic reasons. Then using the U.S. military as political pawns. Thousands of troops deployed around the U.S. Capitol building, patrolling fences, guarding against a non-existent threat, along with forcing politically correct policies like the divisive critical race theory into the military at the expense of the war-fighting mission. It seriously degrades readiness to fight and win our nation's wars. We must focus on war fighting and eliminate the corrosive infusion of political correctness into our military, which damages morale and fighting cohesion. Next, the rule of law. It is fundamental to our republic and security. Anarchy is seen in certain cities, and it cannot be tolerated. We must support our law enforcement personnel and insist that DAs, our courts, and the DOJ enforce the law equally, fairly, and consistently toward all. Finally, the mental and physical condition of the commander-in-chief cannot be ignored. He must be able to quickly make accurate national security decisions involving life and limb anywhere, day or night. Recent Democratic leadership inquiries about nuclear code procedures sends a very dangerous national security signal to nuclear-armed adversaries, raising the question about who's in charge. We must always have an unquestionable chain of command. Under this Democratic Congress and the current administration, our country has taken a hard left towards socialism and Marxism, a form of tyrannical government which must be countered now by electing congressional and presidential candidates who will always act to defend our constitutional republic. The survival of our nation and its cherished freedoms, liberties, and historic values are at stake. We urge all citizens to get involved now at the local, state, and or national level to elect political representatives who will act to save America, our constitutional republic, and hold those currently in office accountable. The will of the people must be heard and must be followed. That's from retired generals and admirals of the United States. I wish that was from the Republican Party. Instead, we're fighting about Liz Cheney. This is what we should be focused on. This should be the message of the Republican Party. All of those things are true. We have Jimmy Carter in office. All we need is for Hunter to introduce, Hunter Biden crack. Then it would be complete. We had Billy Beer from Billy Carter. Why not have Hunter crack? It would complete the image. Everything that is going on is so damaging and weakening. Remember, when Carter was in office, I lived through it. We almost were done. People had the same feeling. Tomorrow will not be better than today. I'll never make it. The American story is over. And then Reagan took office. And it was a combination of his belief in us at first that gave us our belief back. We rode on his faith for a while. And then, because he got government out of the way, we started to rebuild and we got under control again. It still can happen. But it is so badly damaged now. The people in Washington are so far out of control. In this letter, it does spell out exactly what must be done. We must focus locally. And this is a clarion call to all people. Mothers. Mothers, I think, especially. You have got to unite and come together on what's happening in our schools. It is out of control, and many of our school boards are out of control. And we need leadership. We need watchdogs. I'm going to show you next hour. The teachers' unions, they're now saying, we're not going to follow this. You saw the school board, maybe, I'll show it to you next hour, the school board in Oklahoma. They freaked out when everybody said, we want a ban on critical race theory. They freaked out. This is white fragility. That's in Oklahoma. Your kids are being fed poison every day. We as individuals, we as the adults in the room must stand up. And I'll show you next hour, you are definitely not alone.